Welcome back, everybody. All right, so today we're going to be looking at designing the landscape for our little piggy environment. Now, where I'm going to be using the toon shader as my dem, and I'm going to leave the plane in. Now, what I'm going to do is go back into our layout, like so. Now, I'm going to just describe what we're looking at here. So, our plane right now doesn't have enough subdivisions to sort of create that landscape that we're looking for. Now, we're going to be sculpting our landscape with no symmetry, and landscapes are inherently asymmetrical. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Right now, we need to create subdivisions. So while I keep it in mesh mode, I'm going to go into, the mesh view. I'm going to go into edit mode by clicking tab on the keyboard or going up to here and choosing edit mode. I'm just going to go ahead and right click on the on our plane and then subdivide. Now you'll see it begins to multiply, and the more divisions that we have, the smoother the landscape is going to seem to be. For the sake of this tutorial, that to me is enough subdivisions, plus we are going to be able to hit it with the shade smooth, and then that will smooth it all out. So while we're still in edit mode, if I go back into sculpting, you'll notice that you should be able to see your sculpting tools mirror on the plane surface. Now, it doesn't matter if our pig is staying in the actual frame, we won't affect it whatsoever because it's only the object that we've selected is the one where we're going to be editing. Now, we are going to turn the symmetry off. Now, symmetry is over here in our, active tools. I'm going to go down to the symmetry, drop down menu, and just click the X, remove that, and we just have one single tool visible. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and start using the blob tool and just clicking. Now, if you noticed, I'm cutting into the surface because my subtract is on. If you go ahead and turn on the add, up the brush size a little bit, like so, then we can start blobbing upwards. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. It can be as rough as you want. Now, right now, our landscape isn't big enough for our actual scale of our pig. So while we still can, I'm going to go back into layout and then hit S on the keyboard. And I'm just going to scale up like so. So you get something that looks like that. Now, if I go ahead and just change the viewport shading, make it visible, we can see all the subdivisions coming through. So remember, if you go ahead up to object mode and then go down to shade smooth, it'll shade it nice and smooth for you. All right. So back in the sculpting, while we still have it selected, we can continue with our sculpting the landscape. So it is really up to you guys. There, once again, there's no real right answer for this. It's whatever you like, whatever you think is going to work best for you. I would go ahead and do that. All right. That to me seems good enough for my landscape. Now, if I go back into layout, we got that. If I turn on my viewport shading and go full in, you'll notice now that toon shader that I've got on gives you this look. That's pretty wild. Now, if that's too intense or too abrupt, or not quite the look you're going for, especially for your landscape, remember you can use just solid colors for the landscape. Now, if I remove all our settings here, just remove the color ramp and Fresnel, and then go ahead, Shift A again, and input a RGB. Connect that to our surface and give ourselves a colorful landscape. Something that looks like that. There you go. You get a very two-dimensional plane. Now, you lose a lot of depth straight away, so just keep that in mind when you're working with this kind of material, when you go flat toon. Now, in saying that, it doesn't have to be like this. You can just use your stock standard principle BSDF. So Shift A on the keyboard. Look for your principal BSDF. Once again, go ahead and click that to your material output and give it a base color, green, and then you get something that looks like that. Now you don't do too much in regards to, editing it or whatnot. Just enough so that you can create a shadow cast. You got a little bit of differences. If you go ahead and change a few materials properties, so for example, the specular, why not? You knock that down a bit, mats it out a little bit more, but you still get shadow casting, so you can get depth in your shot. If I go ahead and move my light source, go into that view. There we go. Hit G on the keyboard, just lift it up a little bit. Let's put it up here. Rotate our viewport, and then up the wattage again to maybe from 100 to, let's try 1000. See how that looks. Okay, that's not too bad. Now we can add more lights and we can put the sun in and everything, but I want to still try to retain as much of that cartoon look as possible. So that to me is looking pretty good in regards to keeping some still 3-dimension or some depth in a 2-dimensional two-dimensional styling. What else can we mess around with to see if we can mix it up? Maybe the sheen. I'll remove the sheen completely and up the roughness, like so. What else can we do? The subsurface color. I'll just maybe add a little bit of that and knock it down a little bit with the darker colors. And yeah, you know what? It doesn't look too bad. I'm actually pretty happy with that result. Okay, that doesn't look too shabby. So we've got that sort of shading that we want for our landscape. The look that we're going for, landscape's relatively easy. So while we're here, we might as well do another section where we can make some water. All right, now the water is you can make it a pond, a river, it's really up to you. I'm going to go ahead and make a little pond just around here. So I'm going to go back into my sculpting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract and using my blob, and I'm just going to push down into the material like so. Make myself a little dent. All right, once again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And if anything, you make it imperfect, you get better results. You get more realism. All right, so we've got this little indentation. This is where our little pond's going to be. If I go back into my layout, turn off my shading, just so we can look at the viewport, right here is where my water is going to go. Now, like the terrain, I'm going to just insert a basic plane. So Shift A on the keyboard, insert a plane, and then I'm going to scale it up. So S to scale, like so. Now, I'm going to go up in the top view, G to move it. I'm going to just lay it exactly where my pond is. X. And now we know just down here is the sort of the bottom of our pond. I'm going to hit G on the keyboard. I'm just going to go ahead and move that down a little bit, like so. So it's just underneath the landscape. And what we should have is a look like this. So 2 different parts. And now remember, always name all your parts. So right here, I'm just going to go and call it water. That plane is the land. Okay, so if we have to go back and edit anything, we know exactly which thing we're editing. So with our water, like our landscape, I want to put subdivisions in. Because with the water, we're going to add a displacement and make it move and ripple on the surface. So selecting my water, I'm going to go back into edit mode, right click, subdivide, subdivide. Now remember, go back into edit mode, just click tab on the keyboard and just subdivide. Now with the water, I'm going to try to add more subdivisions in it because the more we have, the more organic it's going to look. All right. So that looks okay for me for now. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, adding the displacement when we're adding to make our water move, we're going to use a modifier. So if I'm going to go back into object mode, while my water is still selected, our modifier tab is just a spanner right over here. So we're just going to go ahead and click on that, and we're going to add a modifier, and we're going to add a displace. Now, all of a sudden, you notice it just flies out of the ground. That's fine. That's no problems. You don't have to worry about that. Now we're going to add a texture. Not like what we did before. That was shading. Now, this is a texture. that we're going to be using, this displacement texture. So in the texture properties, we're going to click on that. Then we're going to go into a new texture. And where it says image or video, I want you to click on that and look for the look for clouds. And click on that. Now this is what you end up getting. Not quite the desired water look, so we're going to have to edit it and modify it just a little bit. Remember, we still haven't hit shade smooth, so up here in the object, if you click on that and go shade smooth, it smooths it out. Now some of you may be thinking you could have just used this to make a landscape, and yeah, you're 100% correct. You can make landscapes in this form of fashion. So it's up to you whether you want to do it or not. So right here in our size, we're just going to change that just a little bit. Just tone it down, maybe bring it back a little more. The depth of it, I'm going to increase the depth. And then what I'm going to do is come back to our modifier. I'm going to change a few things. The strength, I'm going to just change the strength. I'm going to weaken it a little bit. Something that looks like that. All right. So you can see that it's built just a bit of above our ground, and that's fine. If I hit G on the keyboard, I'm just going to move it around to where I want. Now, to animate this, so this will be the first component of animation. Now, I think in the next sort of tutorials where I'm talking about animating the pig, I can also show you how to animate the landscape. Not landscape, sorry, the water as well, so we make that ripple. We just have it set in just so we can get that desired look that we want, and we're going to animate it shortly. But we need to add a texture to it as well. Now, if we're going to still sort of keep in this toon shader look style, we can do that as well. Now, you can just use the stock standard BSDF if you're still looking for that very two-dimensional shot, or you can use the toon shader that you used on the pig. Once again, it really is up to you. So we can try to see what it looks like using that toon shader. So this one right here, in the exact same setup. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new. We're going to remove this principal BSDF. All right, so it should just go black, and that's always a good sign. And then we just go Shift A for now, Shift A, color ramp. I'm going to put that in. Okay, and then we just go ahead and click and connect everything up with each other. Like so. All right, now, once again, we're going to flip. We're going to flip the black and the whites. So I'm going to move the black on this side, and then we're going to move the white on that side. Okay, so you end up getting something that looks like that. Now, you probably wouldn't have to push it as hard as you did with the pig, but that's really up to you. There is no, once again, there is no rules. It's just whatever you think looks the best, just roll with that. Roll with the punches. All right, so right now it's a milky color. Now we don't want that, so we want a solid color. So if I go ahead and set it to a watery color, well, let's say that. That's not too bad. Then I'm going to add another one, make it a little bit darker. Like so. And then we add another. Maybe make it even darker than before. So this one here, we'll make this just a tad darker. All right, so if I rotate, you can see it looks like that. So when it actually starts animating, these distortions will look pretty cool. Now, if you want to go into your actual landscape and you want to do some more sculpting, let's say create some ridges around the actual pond, by all means do so. So you can use your blob tool, you can use your inflate tool, really anything that is going to deform it in a way that's going to give you the desired look. So I'm going to try it with the crease, and I'm going to reduce the radius a little bit, and I'm going to up the strength a little bit. Now I just right clicked to be able to bring that menu up. All right, a little bit smaller. All right, and then start morphing around. Make sure that it's not on subtract and it's on add, and we're going to just add a little bit of a edging to our pond, like so. There we go. All right, not too bad, not too shabby. Let's Go back into layout. There it is. All right, and the next tutorial, guys, I'll show you guys how to animate the pig and animate the water itself. Cool. All right, everyone, that will be it for today. I'll catch you on the next one.